Kee2 star constellations. Kee2 star constellations is a family affair. As a family or an individual, learn the ancient science of astronomy, astrology, numerology, and sacred geometry. The lessons are basic and engaging for all ages. They are insightful and empowering. Kee2 star constellations. Welcome to the NuBn Spiritual Warriors Astrology Podcast.
My spiritual essence is Walamu Mudada. And this podcast is provided for those who are seeking wisdom on their journey from darkness into the light.
NuBn Spiritual Warriors Astrology Podcast. Kee2 star constellations. To begin, astrological planetary symbols are very important in learning the language of astrology. The language of astrology requires that you learn planetary symbols. These symbols will assist in decoding information. The language of astrology requires that you learn astrological signs. These signs will assist in decoding information. Once you have learned astrological signs and symbols, you'll be able to place them on an astrological chart. If you notice, in the first house of this astrological wheel, the planet in the first house is Mars. To the left of that symbol of Mars is Aries, the planetary ruler or the sign that rules the first house. If you go to the second house, you'll see the planetary symbol Venus in that second house. The astrological sign that rules Venus, which is right next to that planet, is Taurus, and so on. Now, your assignment will be to place the correct planet in the correct house. And place the correct astrological sign in the correct house. Once you're able to complete this blank chart, you're well on your way. This is what it should look like. Now we move to the houses. The houses represent the area of activity or the domain of life that the energy will play out in. For instance, the first house deals with the area of self, self-image, self-identity, anything that pertains primarily to you recognizing, understanding that you are an entity within yourself. The second house, the domain of the second house is finances, possessions, values. Learn what each house represents as far as the area of life that it addresses. And you're moving a little deeper and a little further. Indicate one area of life that each house addresses. So put in one word for each house. So if I was to address the first house, I might just put in the word self. Going to the second house, I might just put in the word values. Just put one word in each one of the houses to give you an ideal or a starting point of understanding the domain that that house covers. This is what it should look like, but just with one word. Astrological pattern. Many times, when you look up at the night sky, there are a variety of star patterns or constellations that provide immediate information. For example, certain constellations you will only see in the southern sky. Therefore, you know that you are facing or traveling south. This knowledge helped ancient sailors navigate the seas. Also, certain constellations were only seen during the summer or fall. This provided information about the seasons. Likewise, there are certain patterns in an astrological chart that provides information about character traits. One pattern we'll look at is the splash. The planets are evenly scattered throughout the house with 1 to 2 planets in each house. Take a look at the picture to your right. There are less than 4 empty houses. In this picture, you can see 2. This person has a great deal of versatility and has a Gemini nature. Now, they may not be a Gemini, but they're representing a Gemini nature. The challenge is to focus this vast energy, the splash. Another pattern is the bowl. All the planets are within a 180-degree range of each other. Sometimes it is 190 degrees. It is a self-contained energy that is comfortable in the hemisphere that the planets are in. If you take a look at the picture, you'll see that all of the planets are to the right. And that's where the energy is the most comfortable, to that side of the chart. However, the individual will focus on the void areas of life that doesn't have any natal planets. Therefore, the individual has a certain sensitivity to the areas of life or people that may be lacking in some form or the other. So, with that bold pattern, there's a tendency or a sense that the individual wants to fill that void. So there may be an area of life that might seem empty, but they have a desire to fill that void. Next pattern is the fan. All planets except for one is within 120 to 140 degree range of each other. The single planet or handle is at least 60 degrees from the other planets, as you see in that illustration. It is also opposite of at least one planet in the group. The handle or single planet is a source of support or nurturing for the individual. It is likely a safety blanket and provides comfort. Similar to a fan's handle, it controls the action or direction of the energy. The fan pattern. The bucket pattern. The bucket pattern is a pattern similar to a fan. The handle being one or two planets at least 30 degrees from the planets in the bowl and opposite a planet in the bowl. The energy is channeled through the handle of the bucket. Unlike the fan, the handle is not a point of support or nourishment. It is a focal point to release or expression of the energy, to release the expression of the energy. Example being, you have a teapot on, and the teapot is getting hot, and it releases the steam from the top. That's an idea of the energy of a bucket, the bucket pattern. Marilyn Monroe was President Kennedy's secret lover. However, it was one of the worst kept secrets in the country. Notice, they both have a similar chart pattern. The majority of their planets are in the upper hemisphere, which indicates a public life and a certain emotional and psychological experience. This can attribute to their emotional and psychological ties to each other. The ability to identify chart patterns can reveal a host of information prior to a detailed analysis. The locomotive pattern. President Jimmy Carter, 1977 to 1981. He was the first person on his father's side to graduate from high school. He supported civil rights, which hurt his early political career in Georgia. After a poor showing in the 1966 governor's race, Carter adopted a more centralistic image. Carter received his Nobel Prize in 2002, the locomotive pattern. All the planets are within 240 degrees of each other. The planets that are in the engine and caboose position are 120 degrees apart. So as you look at blank houses with no planets in it, one of those points represent the engine and the other point represents the caboose. The individual is a self-driven and motivated person. The engine of the locomotive is the first planet that crosses the ascendant, moving clockwise. The house position and planet are key factors. So you want to pay close attention to the engine. What house is the engine in and its position. Also, the midpoint of the trine between the empty houses are driving the engine forward, creating great ambition. So the three houses that seem to be empty, that middle house is the one that's driving the engine, meaning that planet wants to move into that area. And it generates the fuel for the engine. And the rest of the planets follow along. With the caboose at the end. President Richard Nixon, 1969 to 1974. He had a seesaw pattern. He was an outstanding law student. Nixon stayed in politics after two major defeats in 1960 and 1962. He became president 6 years later after two major defeats. Nixon was the first president to visit and recognize China. Also, President Nixon was part of the Watergate scandal that had him resign from office. The seesaw pattern. The planets are divided in two distinct groups. The groups are at least 60 degrees apart on both sides. So it looks like a seesaw. The individual have a Libra-like tendency in relationships. There is an internal need to balance the opposite side of the individual's personality. So even though the individual may not be a, say, Libra per se, they have that tendency. You may mistake them for a Libra based on this seesaw pattern.
assume the position. It may be with your feet flat on the floor and your spine erect. It may be in a yoga position. Whatever position you assume, your spine is erect. Now gently close your eyes, for you are going on an inner journey. And this inner journey begins with the breath. So as you inhale, earth energy comes up through the center of your feet, through the center of your body, to the top of your head. And on exhalation, it showers out the top of your head like a fountain, returning to the earth. Again, on inhalation, earth energy comes up through the center of your feet, through the center of your body to the top of your head. And on exhalation, this energy showers out the top of your head like a fountain.
Kee2 star constellations. Kee2 star constellations is a family affair. As a family or an individual, learn the ancient science of astronomy, astrology, numerology, and sacred geometry. The lessons are basic and engaging for all ages. They are insightful and empowering. Kee2 star constellations.